Okay, we'll give them about 2 or 3 more minutes. I've called everyone that I could. And Mayor Pro Tem did tell me it would take them about 5 minutes to get on, so I haven't been able to reach anyone else on the council. So you all give us about 5 minutes. I'm trying to call him back again, make sure he got the link. Checking for the link.
Mayor, the link was sent at 9:05.
I will relay that.
Thank you.
Chair Howerton, Mayor O'Neill, I spoke with the city clerk, Diana, and I also confirmed with our attorney, Darby, and we can go ahead and start the meeting. You guys just cannot vote on any item. So we can go ahead and start with the discussion. And actually, Pro Temp just joined in, so we're good to go.
Good morning. I apologize. We had a couple of people who have been under the weather and one who had a family emergency just this morning. So, and we thank Mayor Pro Tem for stepping in. I probably caught him in the middle of his regularly scheduled morning. So we're glad that he's able to join us. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So he's stepping in and the city is now ready. We have our vote. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate
Morning, man. Reporting for duty. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mark. Or
Morning,
Mayor
Commissioner.
Pro Tem, I
Chair.
should say.
Morning, Chair. Good to see you. Good to hear you.
Yeah, I'm in my car right now, so I'm just gotta keep my camera off. So we have, so we can call the meeting to order at what time? What time is it, Monica? I don't have the clock in front of me.
9:17.
9:17.
Okay. So it should be a very short meeting. We only have one item on the agenda. And this is the museum, a conversation, and let's see who's here to present. I'm looking at the names on here.
Chair Howerton, may I interject 1 second? We actually do need to vote on the minutes, the February joint city-county minutes that were attached to the agenda as well.
Thank you. I didn't print it out, and being in the car, I don't see it. So thank you for reminding me of that. So so we can get a motion and a second to vote on the minutes, approve the minutes.
I move that we approve the February 11th minutes of the Joint City-County Planning Committee.
Second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Burns. And we can have a voice vote, or do you need to do a roll call, Monica?
I can do a roll call to make it easier. We'll start with the county. So we have Commissioner Burns.
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs.
Aye.
Chair Howerton.
Aye.
Now with the city, we have Mayor Elaine O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Mark Anthony Middleton.
I vote aye.
All right.
Passes unanimously. I was trying to count everybody. It passes unanimously. Okay. So, and if I'm correct, Monica, given that I don't have it with me in the car here, the only item we have on the agenda is the museum.
Yes, ma'am. And we have Patrick Mucklow, who is presenting on this item. Patrick, I've also made you a co-host, so you have the ability to share your screen.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome, Patrick.
Thank you, Chair Howerton.
You can go ahead.
Okay. On behalf of our board of directors and staff, I just want to thank the City Council and the County Commission for inviting me today, especially Councilmember Williams and Commissioner Alam for their board service. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Howerton for her past board service to the museum as well. I also want to express gratitude to the Commission and the Council for your ongoing support of the museum and your commitment to our education program. It shows Durham students, teachers, and parents that our local government understands how the museum's mission connects with the work being done in schools. As the museum enters its 10th year of operations in 2023, we begin to reflect on our accomplishments and look toward the future. And I'm here to say today that it is time for a permanent museum of Durham history, worthy of this great community and that it can be proud of. The old bus transfer station, which we call home, was a good starter home, but if you've ever been to the museum, you see we are literally bursting at the seams. And now with the rail trail project being funded and underway, it makes sense to plan this in conjunction so we get it right the first time and not lament years from now how the museum and the trail designs could have better complemented each other. In addition, the Museum of Durham History is named as a priority by both the Racial Equity Task Force and the Durham Cultural Plan, now in development. Looking at this map, you can see just a bird's eye view of what is a possibility. This is by no means set in stone or what we have in mind. And we want to grow the museum organically. We've been very intentional and cautious in growing our organization. It took us 8 years to add a third full-time staff position. So we don't wish to grow for the sake of growth's sake, but we want to keep pace with the growth of Durham and keep up with the increasing amount of requests we receive from the public. And we believe the best option is to maintain and develop our current location. We can confidently say to the public that we serve that after 9 years, we're not a luxury, but we are an education essential, which is woven into the cultural fabric of Durham. We know how important first impressions are, and we only have a few seconds to establish a visitor's trust when they walk into the museum. Our 2020 program study reflects solutions to our current challenges. Right now, we can only tell one in-depth story at a time. We need a museum with multiple galleries that tell multiple diverse stories simultaneously, so when visitors walk in, they see themselves reflected in our exhibits. And right now, we can barely host 15 students at any given time. We need a museum with classroom space to provide a connection to education and space to meet and congregate and bring the community together. And we also need more open space in a growingly dense downtown. A new museum should dovetail its design with the rail trail in order to provide a green oasis where outdoor space is maximized. And as we know, the museum is one of the few amenities in an increasingly expensive downtown where gentrification and accessibility are genuine concerns. We need to show that Durham is welcoming to everyone, regardless of their economic background. Since we opened our doors in 2013, we have mounted 50 exhibits connecting with a diverse community and have been comprehensive and inclusive of our events, past, present, and future, representing all people and communities. We also have a responsibility to help the thousands of new people who call Durham home each year understand and appreciate our complex roots. And we are committed to an honest telling of all aspects of our history. The museum's been preserving and sharing and keeping Durham history alive, particularly the stories of those who have not been made part of the traditional record. This past spring, we saw the museum's cornerstone values embodied when NCCU honored the Royal Ice Cream 7 with degrees for doctors in humane letters. The museum worked tirelessly to advocate for these degrees, and we're proud of the recognition bestowed upon these esteemed civil rights pioneers. Relationship building has been key for the museum's success, and not with just our value partner organizations in the arts and humanities, and not with just local government, but with the real individuals who make history. As a museum beyond walls, in addition to programs online, we're getting out among our neighbors with offsite programs, exhibits, and events. Our current exhibit, Dining Out in Durham, has an accompanying dining series that rotates monthly to local restaurants. It's our very modest way of trying to shine a light on Durham's restaurant industry and to help them rebound from the hardships of the pandemic. We also include oral histories in our exhibits. The oral histories that we gather for the exhibits bring them to life. We also put them online so that folks who aren't able to visit the museum in person can still share in the experience. They also serve to bring awareness, and in this case, to let the public hear about the people behind the restaurants who pour their heart and soul into them, and hopefully foster the curiosity for people to go and visit these restaurants. You look in the lower right-hand corner, there's a plaque there that represents the history groves. We have 16 history groves that can be found in all quadrants of the city. Historical markers recognizing the contributions of individuals such as John Hope Franklin as selected by their neighbors. Our exhibit this fall, commemorating what would have been the 100th birthday of Floyd McKissick Sr., will be a multi-venue experience with satellite exhibits at Hayti Heritage Center and at NCCU Law School. We had experience doing this before with our baseball card exhibit, which had installations at our facility as well as at the Bulls Stadium. The museum's popular 150 Faces of Durham, developed in support of Durham 150 in conjunction with the city's 2019 sesquicentennial, was launched in Durham Public Schools. The exhibit, which now lines the sidewalk leading to the museum's front door, reflects on the contributions of a diverse group of 150 individuals, some familiar and some lesser known, painting a picture of Durham in the past and leading up to the present. The traveling exhibit is made up of kiosks installed in Durham public school media centers for month-long residencies in middle schools and high schools throughout the system. It allows students throughout Durham to share in this immersive experience to get to know some of the most influential figures in history. And in just the last 2 months, the museum has received almost $19,000 in grants to expand the exhibit to include elementary level learning and have multiple iterations of the exhibit traveling simultaneously, as well as create a dedicated web portal of educational resources for teachers and students. And for that, we have to thank the Mary Duke Biddle Foundation, as well as PNC. An economic impact report by Discover Durham estimated the museum's added value at almost $1 million. And we are seeing an in-person attendance of 15,000 visitors annually coming out of 2020 during our closure. And in fiscal year 21-22, we had almost 182,000 visits to our webpage, with over 88,000 of those being new, unique visitors to our site. And since July 2021, we have had over 6,000 views on our YouTube channel. And in that same time, we've increased our channel subscribers by over 25% on that platform. We need the city and county to commit to seeing this project through. The museum is a free education resource and should be considered like the public library when it comes to improving community health. Durham's History Museum should be the shared responsibility of the city and the county and the organization who operates it. We respectfully propose that the city and county collaborate to support the construction and ongoing operations of a new museum. There are existing examples of such partnerships, such as the Museum of Life and Science, a county-supported facility on city-owned property. And I'll conclude with a quote from one of our favorite collaborators, a local public school teacher, Amanda McCall. We've worked with Ms. McCall since 2015 when she developed her downtown scavenger hunt based on information found at the museum. We've turned that relationship into an annual teacher workshop where we work with DPS teachers to develop curriculum based on primary resources we've used to create our exhibits. We're proud of the relationship we have with the schools and look forward to doing more. I appreciate your time and would love to chat and hear any questions you have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Patrick, for this excellent presentation. We'll open it up for questions, comments. Okay. Commissioner Jacobs.
I just wanted to add my thanks too.
Okay.
That was excellent.
Thank you, Mayor O'Neill.
Thank you. I saw Commissioner Jacobs' hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to also thank you, Patrick, for this exhibit. And I think I see are these two board members, Lou Myers and Bob Ashley, here, who have been also not just great supporters of the museum, but many other causes in the Durham community as well. So I want to acknowledge both of you and thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you.
Well, so Commissioner Jacobs, if Lou Myers would like to have a comment before you start, and Ashley, let's go there, and then I'll come back to you.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Thank you.
If you don't mind.
No, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Lou Myers. I was on the founding board and was the president when we moved into our space in October of 2013. So as Thad Ure used to say, I'm the oldest rat in the barn. But the other thing I would say is that I've been in Durham since '80, and I've worked on a number of different things, but without a doubt, this museum is it's just unbelievable what was done and it came from the last cultural master plan. And I got a call that I should call Tom Krakauer and say, yes. I said, yes, Tom, what is it? We're building they want a museum of Durham history. Well, now that we have something, it makes sense. But back then, what the heck are you going to do? How does that work? You got Duke, you got Central, you got all these other places, and you've got really state historic sites, just how does that fit in? But as a result, I think the concept is amazing. We wanted it to be a museum without walls or outside of the walls. We didn't want it to be the old-fashioned museum where you need a lot of space to have a lot of junk there. So I think that the concept has been great. The impact has been great. And I think that we've proven that it deserves a permanent space. And with what we're doing with these few resources, what could we do with more space and more resources? So I am as proud of this as I've been of anything I've done. And this was very much a bottoms up effort. So it just needs the support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Howerton and Mayor O'Neill. I've been engaged with the museum in some way for many, many years. Some of you may remember that I once had a life as a newspaper editor, and it was a wonderful opportunity to help promote, publicize, and get behind the museum. So after I retired, I was really privileged to get a chance to come on the board. Since July, I've been board chair, and I deeply, deeply believe in the museum's mission. I think Patrick and his team have done a remarkable job with the limited resources we've had, particularly through the pandemic. I can't say enough about how much they pivoted to making our exhibits available online, engaging people in outdoor events when we couldn't gather inside. So I'm excited. I'm grateful for the support of the city and the county in the past, and absolutely second Lou and Patrick in saying we really, really, really appreciate your support and advice and counsel and fiscal support going forward. So thanks for having us today. Let me be quiet now and let Commissioner Jacobs resume her questions.
Thank you, Bob. Yes, now we can go to Commissioner Jacobs.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm a big fan of the museum. And as has been said, you all have had 10 years to prove yourselves, and you have really knocked it out of the park in terms of not only showing how important the museum is to our community, but even during COVID, you continue to serve the community, play a role in the community, and that really has amazed me. And of course, now the city and county, we are also funding an education position, which you requested so that you could bring this important work into our schools. So really great to hear about that. I think that the purpose of the museum has never been more important. One thing that I've learned over the past few years is really understanding, in the face of what's going on in our country, the importance of storytelling and who controls the narrative around storytelling is really fundamental to our future. And so I think the purpose that you spoke about, the storytelling about our community and Durham and doing it in an honest way is really vital for the survival of Durham and who Durham is and the soul of Durham. And as we look to the future with, growing the rate that we're growing and knowing as our community transforms, we need to be rooted together in our storytelling and have that sense of shared narrative about who this community is, and keep telling our story as more and more people move here. And of course, lifting up the people who have founded this community. So I agree that this is something that the city and the county need to support. We need to figure out how to make it happen. My question is, I did look at the information before the meeting just to clarify two things. One is that the city is giving you the land that you currently are on, so that you do have the site that you're on secured. That would be one of my questions. And of course, where you're located is a very central, valuable site. It is a very valuable piece of real estate. And then looking at, like you said, the Rails to Trails project, but of course there's a huge development also going up right across from you. So I think the linkages to, and hopefully we're going to have a lot more transit happening nearby with the bus station and Amtrak and hopefully commuter rail. But just that is a very important site. So I just want to get more information about the site. And then also, what are your projections about the cost, and what are your thoughts about how do we get there, and any thoughts about other additional funding besides the city and the county, what you all might be able to realistically fundraise. So those are my questions.
So I think it sounds like Mr. Jacobs threw out a lot of questions. So why don't we start with Manager Page? I saw your hand.
Good morning,
Good morning.
all. Madam Chair, Madam Mayor, and others that are present in the meeting. Thank you, Patrick, for your presentation. I just wanted to jump in early and say that we have not had discussions about giving the land, and I wanted to make sure that in this setting that I made that point clear. We are certainly partners, and we lease the land that is currently there, but I did not want us to get started with a conversation that had not actually been negotiated yet. So that is my reason for popping in at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Patrick, were the other questions directed for you as around the cost that Mr. Jacobs mentioned?
Yes, I believe I can speak to some of those questions as well as I can, and I'll probably ask Lou to jump in at one point.
Okay.
To echo City Manager Page, yes, we currently lease the land. We have a 15-year lease plus 2 5-year extensions, and we very much appreciate that generous extension of our current lease. And I have to thank City Manager Page for that, and David Fleischer from the city, who has been a great supporter and really amenable to work with over the years. Sean Egan from the Department of Transportation has also been very supportive of what we do, and appreciating that the land that a current bus transfer station or an old bus transfer station has a new life as a history museum. So I want to thank all of them for that. As for the cost of the museum, in our program study that was redone in 2020 by Vines Architecture, we looked at the plot of land and that we currently sit on, and how to maximize that space. And while, as Lou mentioned, when you, it's a slippery slope if you try and bite off more than you can chew with a facility. And we always want to make our gallery space manageable. And so what is reflected in our program study is on the larger end of what we could imagine a museum of Durham history being, but it is certainly scalable. And it was estimated in 2020 that the cost of a new facility would be $11 million. And given the current state of things, we don't know where things are headed, but it could be significantly higher now and in the future. And that's where I'll ask Lou to give his more experienced advice on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes, the cost. Well, I want to go back to why we're having this discussion. When we started the museum, we hadn't thought about whether, we were just trying to get it started. But once we realized we could do it, the issue became, are we a city entity or are we a county entity? And the fact is that 10 years later, we still do not have a daddy, if you will, because we were never able to get this. I think our original thought was, well, we're a museum, that's a county function. They do Museum of Life and Science, they do the library. Federal money for libraries comes from IMLS, the Institute of Museum Library Science. Museum and libraries are closely linked. So we thought we would be there, but we never had that discussion. Then we were fortunate to get the building, and I think once we got the building and did the lease for the bus station, I think people thought it was a city museum. So the question I think that has to be addressed is, who is our daddy? And I say that, but the fact is, this museum has been supported probably, I don't know, 70% of the money, private money. This museum, it's a public entity, and it's been operating as a private entity, and we suffer because of that. It takes 8 years to get an education person. But my point is, these issues are because we don't have that. We can build the building. Vines Architecture did the library. They've done this stuff. Our problem is, who is going to fund it? Is it public? It is public. And to say that we're private is a disservice, but it is public and it's free. So somebody's got, you all just need to decide how it's going to be done. And again, this is the first time ever that I'm aware the city and the county got together to open this kind of discussion. So that's, the number, if you build it today, it's 15 million. If you build it in 28, it could be who knows how much. But I think the cost is not the issue. I was told by, I can't remember, somebody, either the city or the county, we opened in 13. In 2015, I think we were talking about it, $5 million. Somebody told me that, Lou, that money is not worth a bond. We keep that in our desk drawer. So my point is, I don't think the cost is the issue. It's who's going to pay the cost.
Okay, thanks, Lou. Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, and I'm hoping that you can hear me.
We hear you.
Okay. I appreciate the presentation, Mr. McClough, and I am a great fan of Mr. Ashley, and I appreciate the advocacy that Mr. Myers has had over the years. I know we've had a number of conversations about the museum over the years, and I am a great supporter of the museum. However, I do want to make sure that we do give our staff a chance to go through and look at your plans. Also just acknowledging that I don't know if the site you're currently on is a good way to expand. And that would be my main concern. Just acknowledging we have 2 huge swaths of land with 505 West Chapel Hill Street and the Fayetteville Street apartments that were torn down and became a failed Fayette Place development. And I think that those present a unique opportunity to not only capture Durham's history on one side, but kind of like the arts that we have here and the kind of the architecture, like all of those things are conversations that spin off from that whole Durham 150, look at all the things that Durham has done in the sesquicentennial. What are we on, 152? And so I would love for this to be a more in-depth conversation, not just surface. I don't think it's just a yay or nay. I think it's more of a how, and I don't think it's either or either. I think it's a multitude of partners, because I don't think that Duke and North Carolina Central are excluded in this. I'm excited. This is exciting to talk about. I know that it would be great to get Preservation Durham involved. It'd be great to get all of our historians around the table. We've been talking about, doing a deep dive on housing and looking at history in that. I know that the Bull City 150 did all this work around housing in schools. These are all parts and pieces of our history that need to be incorporated into where we are. I don't want to rush and just put it on this small section. That could be a substation. That could be a hub. I don't think it has to move away from being related to the History Museum, but I do think that there's probably more to this conversation than less. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor O'Neill?
Yes, I'm excited about this conversation. My mind is all over the place with this one. I want to thank Lou and Bob for all you've done over the years in Durham and continue to do. And Mr. Mucklow, I've been down there several times and I've enjoyed each and every time that I've been down there. I would encourage us to think really big, as Councilwoman Freeman mentioned, the city is doing a reset on 505, and there's been a lot of interest in preserving from some of our community members in preserving the building that's down there. And I think we all agree that that is an iconic space in Durham where we can put something really, really nice there. The other thing that, and why I would like for us to really have a task force or somebody to kind of look at that along with our various staffs, because the one thing that we don't have downtown Durham other than DPAC is an amphitheater or a space where our locals can kind of get together. We do have the Central Park, but as we know, gentrification has pretty much segregated downtown Durham. And I think this presents us with a unique opportunity to try to do something really, really nice that will benefit all of the community, like the museum is already doing. So I would encourage us to kind of think out of the box, because what we're talking about doing, hopefully, is something really, really special in that Chapel Hill space. And we have other spots in Durham that we can consider, but I'm excited about this one. So I look forward to next steps in how you all would suggest that we move forward and trying to come up with some ideas, and we'll find, I think we all agree that it's necessary. So when we all agree that it's necessary and it's a good thing, normally the monies will come. The monies will
Thank you,
come.
Mayor O'Neill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else? I don't see any hands at this time.
Commissioner Jacobs and Lou
Myers,
had their hands up, Brenda.
Lou Myers, please.
No, Commissioner Burns, I think, would she want to say something?
No, sir. I was just acknowledging your hand because I know Brenda said she was in the car and I didn't know if she could see you all.
Yes, I see it.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the concern about the location. That certainly needs to be discussed. I think the case was made why it needs to be there. it is a museum without boundaries. Having the museum there does not say that you couldn't have, because we originally called that the hub. Some of you may remember that we called it the Museum History Hub. So the thought was there could be other places, and that's a worthy, discussion to have. I think the focus still is who's the daddy, because we're working with preservation. All those people that were mentioned, we've been involved with them. If you look at what we've done, so it's not that we're not collaborative and cooperative. The problem is we need to know who the daddy is, because once we know the daddy, then I think that gives us opportunities to look at other kinds of things. So I just want to say that, to me, looking at where the building's going to be, it needs to be done, but when is 505 going to open? Lord knows, we don't know. We thought it might be opening somewhere around now. So my point is, we've got something that I think we need to capitalize on, and it's not that we do this and we cannot do something else. So those two things, but most importantly, who does the Museum of Durham History belong to? And I think that has to be the focus of your group, because only the joint city-county can decide that. Where it will go, that involves public participation, but so I just want to focus on the important thing, not where it's going to be. We've got at least one site that could work. Looking at others, we've never got into that discussion. How are you going to get into that discussion when you don't, you just don't have anything to work with? So I just, again, focus on the issue of who is going to be the daddy of the Museum of Durham History. And while you're deciding that, these other things can happen, but there's not going to be any new space until there's a daddy.
So, I'll go to Commissioner Jacobs in just a second. I just want to ask Lou, serving on the board, I've actually seen the work that's gotten done on, as I say, 5 cents over the years. So you've been able to do so much with so little. And I'd like to know if you have any thoughts about a group of folks coming together to have this conversation. Is Councilwoman Freeman just said, it's going to take more than just this conversation to come up with a strategy for where we go from here. So do you have any recommendations for that?
No, ma'am, I don't. I think that's something that the board, let me say, I'm not on the board. I'm just an old guy who cares about it. But I mean, that can happen. I mean, you could get all of those parties together, 505, we all know where 505 is. Could it have a private site? I don't think the museum ought to be in, another building. I just, there was talk about, oh, you could get a developer, put you on the ground floor and put office apartments, all that other stuff over you. I think the downtown site, it'll be an oasis with all of those towers around. All of the transportation comes there. That does, and you could do that one quickly, but having it there does not mean that you can't have something somewhere else. I don't think that the museum in and of itself can be a generator for growth. So I think if you put it someplace where nothing it now exists, you're going to have issues, and you could in fact kill the museum while you're trying to do something else. But again, Madam Commissioner, y'all know how to make that happen. You can bring everybody together and maybe say, look, y'all get in the room, and if you don't come out of here with the plan, but that can work. We've done that in Durham. So wherever that lands, you're still going to need a daddy, and I think it's important that we get that so we can get moving just on the process. So those are my comments, but I think that's the way you guys decide how you want to do it. Convene a meeting.
Thank you, Lou, for that input. Mr. Jacobs, and then let's go to Mayor O'Neill.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on possible next steps. I mean, I think that one possibility is to for the chair and our mayor to work with Patrick and city and county staff on creating a working group of folks to start working on this and for people to start vetting the different ideas and coming up with a plan. So that would be my suggestion of a possible next step.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobs. Mayor O'Neill.
Wendy and I are on the same page this morning. Let's get a little small group together, and Lou, we'll make that question the number one priority first, is to figure out what the relationship is in terms of, hopefully we can do something where it's both city and county together. And so I'll ask him, and of course, I think our city manager, I know is here, and I believe our city attorney is here. So we have everybody, I think all the people that we can get started.
And the county manager is here too. I see her on the screen as well.
I think your county attorney was here as well. So I think we have all the parties where we can start convene a group.
Okay, thank you, Mayor O'Neill. Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't lower my hand. I think they covered it. I was just gonna add the part that to Mr. Myers' point, it's more than the daddy. There's also a mommy. And there's uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, and all of the relevant family members that make the village work. So let's not get stuck on who's the daddy.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me. I'm old. Forgive me.
There's never a doubt as to motherhood.
Isn't that the truth?
Daddy's always a big
Okay. I think Ashley has something to say.
I'll let Patrick wrap up for us, but I just wanted to say how grateful I am for the response we've had here this morning. It's everything I could have hoped for and more, quite honestly. And the fact that this is the beginning of the discussion is absolutely something I acknowledge, we acknowledge, and we are ready, willing to be part of any working group, any task force, any discussion to hammer out the details. I told somebody yesterday, contemplating this, that this is going to be a difficult deal to put together, right? This is not easy. There are a lot of sort of difficult details to work through, but in the almost 18 years I've been back in Durham, I know that this community does tough deals. I mean, that's what we do. We put our heads together, our minds together, and we work for it. So I'm board chair for at least a year, maybe 2 years, and I'm absolutely committed to giving any time and effort that I can and need to work with you all to make this happen. So I'll let Patrick close for us, but I just wanted to express my appreciation and excitement for how today has gone.
Thank you. Patrick, if you have something else to add, and then I will wrap up this conversation and look and talk about our meeting in October.
Great, thank you. To echo everyone, I just want to thank you all. It's great to be able to have the opportunity to even start this conversation with you. And I feel like going into our 10th year of operation is a good time to step back and look at where we are and how we can move forward. And so how we collaborate with other humanities and arts organization has always been very important to the museum. How we keep the local elected officials and its staff, especially because they're the ones we're in touch with on a regular basis to make sure that the museum is operating smoothly, and to make sure that the public sector is involved in that conversation and regularly kept in communication is important. And so I look forward to getting together with everyone again in the very near future and just starting to get into the details of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank all of you for this conversation. And the mayor and I hear you, that we will take some action here. And Bob and Ashley, you know, it's something significant about 10 years. 10-year anniversary. There's something significant about having this conversation now.
Right.
And what I know about Durham, we make the impossible possible.
Right. Absolutely.
So thank you. And all about getting to the table and make something happen. So thank you so much for this conversation. And for the committee, our next meeting is October, and we will start to put an agenda together for that time. I don't have the date right now, but you will get an email as to that date. Anything else on the agenda that needs to be discussed before we adjourn? If not, I will say this meeting is adjourned. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe, all.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Yeah.